We're Lauren and Azrael, and we're discussing ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, which can be colloquially known as Huasca, Yahe, Camarampa, Huni, Brew, and more, is derived from a Quechua word meaning vine of the soul. It was created by peoples of the Amazonian rainforest as a tea that is brewed from the Banisteropsis coffee and the Psychotria viridis. It dates back to the pre-Columbian era, before European influence, and it was used as in spiritual and religious ceremonies to enter into contact with the unseen side of reality. Ayahuasca can present a myriad of drug effects, ranging from behavioral changes, mood changes, and cognitive changes. While also a cognitive change, one of the behavior changes caused by ayahuasca can also be anxiety, because even though it's a cognitive change, it can present certain behaviors when you're fearful or anxious. Ayahuasca can also increase self-confidence, and it is thought to help people reveal intimate truths in many religious contexts. When it comes to the mood changes that come from taking ayahuasca, one of the biggest ones is that it can cause these very intense and powerful emotions and can also induce a sense of euphoria, while also leaving a person feeling very, very vulnerable as well. While using ayahuasca can cause those behavioral and mood changes, it is most known for its cognitive changes in its drug effects, which can often lead to things like introspection, visual and auditory hallucinations, coming back to that anxiety, that panic and fear, and it can also allow for resurfacing and experiencing traumatic memories and an altered sense of time.
Before discussing the mechanisms of action of ayahuasca, we should first look at its components, DMT and harmala alkaloids. DMT is a 5-HT2A receptor agonist. 5-HT2A is a serotonin receptor. When DMT binds to 5-HT2A, it induces the production of glutamate, which induces excitation in the pathway. DMT is deactivated by the enzyme MAO-A. Harmine and harmaline are MAO-A inhibitors, otherwise known as MAO-Is. By inhibiting MAO-As, MAO-Is prevent the degradation of DMT. They also have an affinity for 5-HT2A receptors and increase dopamine release from striatal cells. They also likely inhibit dopamine reuptake. We can now process the diagram. Here we can see how DMT induces excitation by activating 5-HT2A receptors, causing increased signaling that cascades into increased release of glutamate, allowing for a ton of action potentials to fire. In this way, it is excitatory. To fully understand the effects of ayahuasca, it's important to know what areas are most affected by it. Stimulation of 5-HT2A receptors in visual areas leads to the visual hallucinations. We also see excitation in episodic memory areas, which causes re-experiencing of memories and their associated emotional states. Last, in the posterior cingulate cortex, we see decreased activity, which leads to altered self-awareness and metacognition. While the exact reason for the decreased activity is unknown, it is thought that this area deactivates when the brain is busy elsewhere.
The primary route of administration for ayahuasca is the oral route. The plants that were mentioned prior are brewed into a tea that is ingested. After administration, it takes about an hour to feel the effects of ayahuasca, and these effects can last around 4 to 6 hours, give or take. The primary psychoactive ingredient of DMT found in ayahuasca is rapidly distributed intraperitoneally, with a maximum concentration in the liver and kidneys about 5 minutes after administration, and in the brain after about 10 minutes. The harmala alkaloids act as potent inhibitors of monoamine oxidase A, or MAO-A, which breaks down serotonin. This MAO-A also prevents extensive first-pass degradation of DMT, allowing it to have a greater bioavailability. The administration of DMT through routes of administration like ayahuasca show that concentrations and drug effects can greatly vary from person to person. As mentioned previously, high amounts of MAOIs in the liver, like harmaline and harmine, allow for that high bioavailability of DMT from ayahuasca because it prevents that first-pass metabolism. Little info was able to be found about the depot binding, so we're not entirely sure much about that.
Now we will discuss the metabolism of ayahuasca. The DMT is metabolized by cytochrome P450 since the harmala alkaloids have inhibited MAO-A, which is typically responsible for metabolizing it. This allows it to have a psychedelic effect. The harmala alkaloids are also metabolized by cytochrome P450. The factors with the most influence over metabolism of ayahuasca are genetic differences affecting cytochrome P450 and the presence of other drugs in the system. Drugs that are also metabolized by or inhibit cytochrome P450 may slow down metabolism, extending the drug effect. If used with an SSRI, it can lead to serotonin syndrome since there are no MAO-As present to break down serotonin, and DMT is a serotonin agonist. The excretion and elimination of ayahuasca are straightforward. Both DMT and the harmala alkaloids are eliminated via first-order kinetics. DMT has a half-life between 1 and 4 hours. Harmala alkaloids, harmine and harmaline, both have half-lives of about 2 hours. DMT and harmala alkaloids are both excreted via urine. There is no evidence that chronic use of ayahuasca leads to tolerance, aside from decreased cognitive impairment in long-term users when under the influence of ayahuasca. There is also no evidence of withdrawal occurring after ceasing chronic use of the drug. Further, there is little potential for abuse associated with use of the drug. It is seen as safer than most other drugs, there is no evidence of dependence, and only weak reinforcing effects have been found. Despite affecting dopamine, harmala alkaloids do not cause dependence, and ayahuasca does not activate reward-related areas. There is also no drug seeking associated with use. In fact, ayahuasca has been used as a therapeutic tool to treat addiction to other substances.